All right. Good morning, Housing Authority Board of Directors, and over to you, Chair Harrington.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, December 5th, 2023 Washington County Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting. Clerk Moss, could you do us the honors, please?
Certainly, Madam Chair. The Washington County Board of Commissioners is now meeting as the Washington County Housing Authority Board of Directors in this regular session, December 5th, 2023. Director Roper?
Here.
Director Treese?
Here.
Director Fye?
Present.
Director Willie?
Here.
Vice Chair Rogers?
Here.
Director Harrington?
Here.
And I'll announce Director Savara is excused from today's meeting.
Yes, thank you. Rather short agenda today, but still important work. The next item on the agenda is public communication for the Housing Authority Board of Directors. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to speak to us today?
I did not see anyone sign up for the Housing Authority meeting, but I will open it up to anyone in the auditorium. If you wish to provide any comments on any housing-related items for up to 2 minutes, just please raise your hand or start to come forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any members online via Zoom wish to provide public comment to the Housing Authority for up to 2 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands. Director Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, we'll move on. We have one item on today's consent agenda. It consists of the minutes of our November 7th, 2023 meeting. What are the wishes of the board regarding today's? Our Board of Commissioner meetings will follow this meeting. Yeah, that's quite all right. What are the wishes of the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting? Board of Directors regarding today's consent agenda? Alan, so moved. Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor of adopting today's consent agenda, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, directors. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 6-0. Next, we'll move on to the action section of today's memo. Today, we have consideration of a resolution and order in the matter of amending the Housing Authority Board of Directors bylaws/rules of procedure. Oh, good. We have Director Molly Rogers here with staff. Please take it away.
Good morning, directors. My name is Molly Rogers, and I'm the Director of Housing Services for Washington County. I am here to introduce updates to the Housing Authority of Directors bylaws and rules of procedure, and I'm going to turn it over to our Policy and Planning Manager, Melissa Sansala, to go through those changes with you.
Perfect. Good morning. My name is Melissa Sansala. I'm the Policy and Planning Manager for the Department of Housing Services and the Housing Authority of Washington County. I'm going to lower my chair just to, oh, nope, see, I don't know how to lower this chair. It's
so many handles.
It's
yes.
so high, you guys. I'm sitting on a stool. Thank you so much.
We want you to be comfortable.
I had to say it because in case it was super awkward, and then it was. So I am here today to discuss the changes that we are proposing to the bylaws and rules of procedure for the Housing Authority Board of Directors. I have notes here because this is a pretty technical one, and I want to make sure I cover everything. So on November 28th, 2000, the Washington County Board of Commissioners established the separate Housing Authority Board of Directors to oversee the Housing Authority of Washington County, and that was effective January 1st, 2001. The rules of procedure for that body, the Housing Authority Board of Directors, were established by resolution and order on January 23rd, 2001. It does not appear that there have been any significant updates to the rules of procedures or bylaws since then, so in over 20 years. In reviewing the current rules of procedures, staff found that there were several items that needed to be updated, and in the end, we decided to go through a full revision to keep current with current practices for our Board of Directors meetings. I want to make sure I give credit to the folks who did a lot of work on this, reviewing, editing, and advising. Marnie Kyle, our Assistant County Administrator, Jacqueline, our County Counsel, Molly Rogers, our Executive Director, and I want to also recognize Kevin Moss, Board Clerk, who also really advised on this process. So significant changes in the document includes the addition of a section defining the terms and responsibilities of directors. That was something that was missing and is very common and standard for bylaws and rules of procedures. This includes specifications about appointed terms of 4 years, expectations about attendance, and standards of procedures in the event of vacancy or resignation. We also updated the descriptions of scheduling around our regular meetings, around special meetings, and the standard agenda. This included corrections to the times that the Board of Directors typically meets and updates to the regular kind of standard how we go through the agenda at any given meeting. And we also updated the sections around public communications to bring that up to date and in line with our standards of procedure now. So that's just kind of a quick overview. We included the clean version and a red line in your packet, and I am happy to take any questions at this point.
Directors, do you have any questions at this juncture? Okay, if we could just pause for 1 minute. I have a question, but Commissioner Willie's going to help me with it.
I can ask a question, Director Rogers and Mom. This is the bylaws for the Housing Authority, but you just, this board, as well as the 5 of us, or the 7 of us.
The 7, correct.
7.
Yep.
I had a question about the officers' layout. Is that applicable to this, the composition of the current way?
Jacqueline, do you have that answer? So I believe it is. I believe. Chair. We need another chair.
I'll take the tall chair.
That can be arranged. It might take an extra minute, but.
So the question was about officers.
Okay, Director Fye, what was the specific question about Director?
I'm wondering the layout of the officers in this Article 3. The chair, and then there's a vice chair and secretary.
That's correct. That is typical of Board of Directors.
Yes, but I'm just wondering, should we call out the chair is actually the chair of the counties?
Oh, I think I see the question. So you're wondering about whether the chair of the Board of Commissioners should be called out specifically for the chair.
Which is the same as the chair for the Housing Authority.
Sure. There's no legal implication related to that, but I'm sure that if you would like to change that, that's fine to do as well.
I think the question is, where's the connectivity? So that, I guess in the future, somebody else doesn't get elected chair, other than the chair of the Board of Commissioners. So
Sure.
is there a connectivity there?
If there is no connectivity, we can make a connectivity. I think that there might have been, I'll have to take a look at the red line, but there might have been some language related to that was deleted. It's possible. I'll have to take a look, but I do understand the concern, and so that is something that can be added if it's not clear. Director Fye, if you've read it and that connection is not clear, that can be added.
Well, I think, and I'm sorry, I'm stealing your questions here,
Please
but if it was intentional initially that the chair of the Board of Commissioners would be the chair of the Housing Authority, then we need to make sure that that's spelled out in the documents.
I believe it's written in a way so that it's flexible and that it's neutral on this very question. And so I think that's a question back to you as the directors. Would you want us to default to the chair of the county to be the chair of the Housing Authority as well?
I think one of the issues that over the years in working with bylaws is the degree of flexibility that you can have in the bylaws for the future is probably a better thing. And I'm just thinking that it would be more restrictive for the future if it was only the chair of the county.
So what I appreciate the discussion, and I've been more than happy to just have it go free flow. Commissioner Fye is right to point out that it's never been specifically stated, not before, not now. The practice has been that I'm referred to as director, just like you are, but when something comes up, because I'm the chair, because I'm elected at large, staff tends to come to me first. As you know from my operating style, being very open and transparent and democratic to all of you, I make sure that you get information as promptly as possible. And so that has been my practice. I am not aware of how needs have sprung up in the past, such that, beyond the chair running the meeting and in the absence of the chair are going to the vice chair, and in the absence of that, which I'm not sure has happened, we figure it out, right, in order to get the work done that needs to be done. So I think the practice that we have in place has been really smooth. But if there is something foreseen, then we can define it. I am not aware of any outside, HUD or state government need that has highlighted that we define that. But it is silent in terms of, it talks about there being a chair and it talks about there being a vice chair, but it doesn't talk about how one becomes the chair or one becomes the vice chair. So if it seems odd that it isn't defined, but it didn't, it used to say the chair of the board. And given that it's the board of directors for the authority, it's just still, it's grammatically correct, just the chair, meaning the board. But I think there are just certain inferences that have leaned into what it is with the Washington County Board of Commissioners. It would be clearer if it did specify, but it hasn't kept us from getting the work done at the same time.
I think that's very good input, and we will take the back and make some revisions to make it clear, the relationship, or clear around how we're defining chair and the relationship with the county governance structure. So then, and additionally, Director Harrington making it, and chair, making it clear that how people become the chair, vice chair, when we nominate officers, and when does that become official. So just so for future governance structures, or just have a better understanding of the two relationships and how they flow.
I also don't recall, maybe my colleagues do or our legal counsel, when we take our oath of office for the Board of Commissioners, I don't recall taking an oath as the Housing Authority Board of Directors or as the Clean Water Services Board of Directors. So I think in both cases, we really lean on the officer structure coming out of the Washington County Board of Commissioners. So I think there is a tie there that maybe we need to get clearer on. I don't know that the provisions of ORS 456095 call that out or not. So, the other question that I had, Commissioner Willie was helping me with under Article 2, Directors, Section 1. I'm looking at the red line, line 2, towards the end. If you go from the right to left, there might be an extra column. It just reads funny. That's all. But that's just a grammatical thing that doesn't change the legal nature.
I'm sorry, can you clarify? Can you say that again? I think I'm not looking at the same thing.
I'm looking at the red line version.
Okay, under Article 2, Directors,
Yep.
Section 1.
Powers.
Powers, yep.
And the affairs of the authority managed under the direction of, comma.
Perfect, I see it now. I misheard you before.
Yep.
Yep, thank you.
So what I can't recall, and sorry, I didn't do the search. What was the instrument that we modified when we had a change of executive director? When the prior executive director retired, we had an interim, and then once we hired a new executive director, what was that instrument we changed? Was that an administrative rule or something?
Chair, I have to look into that question because memory's not
Yeah.
coming back to me what that was.
Well, we get the job done and we follow the rules and requirements. So I don't need the answer to take action on this at all. So,
Is there some urgency to do this today? Because we're hearing there's going to be changes, and just bring it back and.
I don't feel that there's any urgency to do this, especially given the length of time that.
I'm not disagreeing with any of the comments. It just seems to be easier to get a clean copy and.
I agree.
Yeah.
I think that would be just fine for us to bring you the revisions, specifically around the officers, and have that reviewed and do approval then.
okay, that'd be great.
Okay.
Do we need to take any formal action like continue or just take no action today legally?
Not an ordinance.
Right. Do we need to take a vote to table?
You do not.
Okay, thank you. Clerk Moss, did I do something to lose Director Roper?
No, she
Oh,
just turned off her
terrific.
camera.
Thank you. I haven't done a good job
Sorry about that.
Yeah, sorry, I haven't done a good job to make sure I check in to see if you have any questions or comments on this item.
No, I'm just glad that there'll be a different version, updated version, so that way I could take a better glance because there was just a lot there and I didn't know how to frame my questions. So thank you.
Okay, so I just want to make sure you're comfortable with the status that we're going to table this for now and staff will work on the improvements and come back. Yes. Thank you, Director Roper. I appreciate it. All right. That takes us to our second public communications portion of today's meeting. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to speak to the Housing Authority Board of Directors for up to 5 minutes an individual?
Thank you, Director Harrington. I did not see anyone sign up in the back room or get my attention, so would anyone in the auditorium wish to provide comment on any housing-related item to the Housing Authority Board of Directors for up to 5 minutes? Give you a moment to raise your hands, stand up, or come forward. Not seeing one in the room. Would any member online use to provide comments for up to 5 minutes on any housing-related item? We have one hand. Arlen, can you hear us?
Hello. I don't know if it's really housing related. I wanted to talk about getting involved in local politics and what my first steps for that would look like. And I was wondering if I can ask a question about how the chair people in the room kind of got started in local politics. Is that an okay question?
That is not, so our public comment section is not a discussion forum. Rather, it's an opportunity for members of our community to come and share their thoughts with us. So what would be more fruitful is if you go to our website, washingtoncountyor.gov, and I can't remember which page it is to submit a constituent request, but go ahead and make a request through that means, and that will come to us as the Board of Commissioners, and we can follow up with you to have those in-person conversations.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Would any other member wish to provide any comments to the Housing Authority Board of Commissioners? Not seeing any additional hands, Director Harrington.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Next is the opportunity for board announcements. Directors, do you have any announcements you wish to share with our community?
Just so everybody have a happy holidays and be safe and be safe on the road, and just with all these viruses and colds going around, take care of yourself.
That's right. Thank you, Director Roper. And we'll have our first meeting of the Housing Authority Board of Directors coming up in January. Not quite ready for a new year. All right, and with that, is there a motion to adjourn today's Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting?
Motion.
Thank you, Director Roper, and a second from Director Willie. All those in favor, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, directors. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 6-0. We're hereby adjourning the Housing Authority Board of Directors meeting. And thank you, Director Roper. See you next year.
See you next year.
And with the flick of a switch, we will turn over to the Washington County Board of Commissioners meeting for Tuesday, December 5th. I'll gavel us in. Clerk Moss.
Thank you, Chair Harrington. The Washington County Board of Commissioners, also meeting as the Board of Directors for Clean Water Services and all other county service districts, is now meeting this regular session, December 5th, 2023. Commissioner Treese?
Here.
Commissioner Willie?
Here.
Commissioner Fye?
Present.
Vice Chair Rogers?
Here.
Chair Harrington.
Here. Welcome, everyone. It's good to have you here in our audience today. We don't have any changes to the agenda to announce, so we'll dive right into public comment. I do want to note that we do have a public hearing on the agenda, so if you're here to speak to us about B engrossed Ordinance 882, we will have the formal public hearing later on the agenda. So with that, Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to speak to us on any other matters?
Yes, we do, Madam Chair. First up, we have Doris Michael, followed by Dale Feek.
Hi.
Hi.
My name's Doris Michael. I'm here today because my husband, John Michael, had worked for Clean Water Services for 16 years as an engineering project manager, and he died in August. And I want to thank you for the card you sent me. It was appreciated, your kind thoughts. But I'm here today because I need your help. I need your help to get the pay and the benefits my husband is due. I had a very difficult time. And the second reason I'm here is that I don't want anyone who has lost a spouse to go through what I did, having a very difficult time getting the benefits and the pay he was due. And that's the only reason I'm here, so thank you. And I have a letter with attachments explaining why I felt the need to come before you today.
Thank you, Ms. Michael. I will follow up on behalf of the Board of Directors of Clean Water Services with our Chief Executive Officer staff, including with Mr. Mark Jockers, Chief of Staff, who's here with us today.
Thank you.
And we'll get back to you. Thank you.
I guess I'll take a couple extra seconds. Madam Chair. Nope, don't start yet. Nope.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, Harrington and Commissioners, I have to take a second to compose myself. My daughter's father-in-law just died Friday, and the emotional response I just had from the last presentation got to me. So I'm having to get myself under control.
Can we reset the clock, please?
Did you say reset the clock?
Yes.
It says 1 minute and 45 seconds. I'm getting myself under control.
Right, it is all set for you. Mr. Feek, please go ahead.
2 minutes?
Well, you started a little bit, so
She
you're
said
about
reset
1:45.
it at 2.
Could you reset
Yep.
the clock to 2 minutes? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. I'm Dale Feek, Chair of the Washington County Citizen Action Network. I sent you an email earlier this morning. Please read the detail. The details. Devil's always in the detail. And getting things done, you got to read details, or you don't know what the heck's going on. So that particular email to you this morning, all I do is have the cover page to you. It's 3 pages. And I say basically, and this is also to Chair Mayor of Callaway and the councilors of Hillsborough. I say, just in case you did not have a chance to read the pamphlet story about Intel written by Nick Lamora and my op-ed, I have attached him to this email. Please also click on the link below when I suggest decision makers consider an alternative assessment of Intel's hiring of Echo Northwest to did economic impact of Intel on the county and state. My request. Because quite a few people work at Intel but live in Forest Grove, Banks, and North Plains, please consider publishing Nick's story in print version of the Forest Hills News Times, because this goes to the current editor that replaced Mark Miller of the Pamplin Papers that published my articles and got the story written. Intel has put 4 advertisements in the Sunday Oregonian, costing them about $7,500 each time. They print full-page ads. November 12th and November 19th. Then the Oregonian printed 2 half-page ads, which I assume cost them about half of that. I got an email back from Nina DiConcini, who received in public comment on Intel's application. She says, thanks for sharing the link to the ad Intel placed in the Oregonian. I reviewed it and found it to be generic in nature, not associated with any type of environmental issue, nor the proposed air quality permit modification in Washington County. I said, I totally disagree with her analysis, as stated below with the following email to her. And this email also is to Nina DiConcini. I think because Intel wants to influence public opinion that the good they are providing outweighs the bad, toxic pollution and greenhouse gas emissions, you can continue reading yourself. My time is up. And then I'm also given today the 2 books I have, Boiling Frogs Intel versus the Village, and also Inside Intel, a case study of environmental and justice. I'm delivering it to her office today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Feek. Clerk Moss.
All right, was there any other members in the auditorium who wish to provide comment on any county-related topic for up to 2 minutes? Give you just a second, raise hand, call my attention, or come forward. Not seeing anyone else. Would any members online wish to provide comment for up to 2 minutes on any other county-related topic? Give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. And with that, we'll move on to our consent agenda. Today's consent agenda consists of 19 items. 2 items from, Facilities, Fleet, and Parks, 6 items from Health and Human Services, 1 item from Human Resources, 1 item from Emergency Management, 1 item from the Office of Community Development, 2 items from Finance, and 6 items from Land Use and Transportation. What are the wishes of the Commission?
Move for approval.
Second.
All those in favor of adopting today's consent agenda, please vote by raising your hand or saying aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously, 5-0. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to presentations. And today we have our independently elected auditor here to present to the board. Welcome to Kristen Adams Wanberg. And today's packet includes both a report as well as a presentation about her report. So welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and Commissioners. For the record, my name is Christine Adams-Wanberg, and I am the County Auditor. It's a pleasure to be before you this morning. I think the last time I was in this room was actually having us sworn in, so it's been a little bit. So I'm very pleased to be here this morning to present my office's 2023 annual report. The county charter details various responsibilities for my office, but one of them is to actually come before you each year to provide an overview of what my office has done in the past year and upcoming plans, and to see if you have any questions for me. And just so you know, this particular presentation today is just providing the annual report. I'm not going to be discussing any audits that come up or any audit recommendations. Next slide, please. Or do I do the clicker? Oh, I have the power. Excellent. Excellent. All right, just a preview of coming attractions in the presentation. I'm going to give you my office's mission, vision, values, and goals. I am going to highlight a little bit about the budget and my office's staffing, and then, of course, get to the meat of the presentation, which is talking about the activities my office has had this year, as well as plans for next year and things coming up. But first, I am just going to have a fun fact, just because it's cool. So you already know as commissioners that we were one of the 4 counties created by the territorial legislature. The auditor, the county auditor at the time, was not elected. They basically did finance. But one of the things you might not be aware of is during the Great Depression, when the money supply was very limited, Washington County actually issued its own currency. And the auditor was the person who actually authorized the currency. If you look at the little diagram there, or the image and everything, the little circle there shows the auditor. So just a little fun historical fact on what the auditor used to do. Now, the auditor's position right now is a little bit different. In about 1980, it became an elected position, and there are other elected auditors in our region. That would also be like Multnomah County, City of Portland, Metro, and Clark County, Washington. Generally during that time, about the early 1980s, is when all these elected auditors started popping up and having charter changes to include the elected auditors. There are other auditors in Oregon that are not elected. Clackamas County, Deschutes County, and Jackson County also have performance audit functions, but their auditors are appointed. So essentially what the charter says that my responsibilities are to continuously evaluate the effectiveness and results achieved by county programs and the activities and the costs and resources used to achieve those results. Essentially what my shop does is a lot of program evaluation. We do assessment for compliance with policies, legal requirements, looking for good internal controls. We look for efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability. I like to think a lot of these are kind of like a gap analysis. So we look at what we're doing, we look at what the criteria is. That could be a policy, it could be a law, it could be a best practice. We try to see basically where are we at. Are we in line? Are we not in line? If we're not in line, why not? What's the impact of that? And then my office makes recommendations. My philosophy has always been that audits really have an important role in the continuous improvement of the organization. So strategic planning. We are not through our strategic planning process. I'm sure you can identify with that as you are going through your own. But our mission is to promote better government accountability, public policy, and county services through impactful audits and analysis. Our vision is that we are a valued contributor to the continuous improvement of the county for the public good. Our values are accountability, integrity, independence, impact, and equity. And then our goals are to improve government accountability and performance, and then maximize team effectiveness and fulfillment. I do want to highlight some things about our office budget and staffing. We are, I think we have already hit budget season. It feels like we've already hit budget season with all the information coming out of finance. So our budget is about $900,000 for the current fiscal year. We took a 10% cut. If you look at the top graphic, you'll see that most of that is in personal services, so it basically pays for staff. We have some in materials and services, which would be, for example, like paying for some contracts, it would be paying for facilities, county council, things of that nature, professional dues. And then we have a tiny little slice up there, which is contingency. This is actually a little bit new because our office, very much like your function, has now become an internal service fund, and finance has put a little plug a contingency in there. So we're definitely undergoing a little bit of an adjustment in terms of how we are basically portrayed in the county budget. One thing I do want to note, though, is that obviously with a 10% cut, we took a position hit. So we went from 4 staff down to 3. And I did want to provide you a comparison, just so you know, about basically what the average is. The average right now, if you look at auditors per 100,000 population, is at 1.0 FTE, and right now we are at 0.5. Even with the position that we had, even if that were restored, we'd be at 0.7. I provide that just as a frame of reference for where our shop is versus others in the area. Just so you know, I do know that the other audit shops do have some other functions. Those have been taken out of those calculations to provide an apples-to-apples comparison. But I do think it is important to know because it's definitely hit our office. We are definitely feeling the impacts. And just as a preview of coming attractions, I will be asking for staff in the budget process coming up. In terms of the audit schedule for this year, the county financial policies audit started this year, and you will be receiving it in a couple weeks. It will be released before Christmas, so I'm happy to note that. 2 other audits, the ARPA Workforce Development Audit and then the MISTIP risk assessment, those have been started. Those are in process right now. You will see those in 2024, and the county cash handling audit has not been started yet, but will be started in the next year. Also in 2024, we will also be doing follow-ups on audits that have previously been issued, basically checking up on things. How are the recommendations going? Are things being implemented? And we will provide that information in 2024 as well. I do want to highlight a lot of significant internal work that we did this year. In addition to audits, there's a lot of internal stuff that we have to do in the office to make sure that we are running well, to make sure that we are in compliance with auditing standards, and just working well as an office. We did start our strategic planning work. As I've already highlighted, we had to revise our policies and procedures. A really big one that we've been working on right now is new audit software. We had some very, very old software for many years. That is something where this year we have done research, we have gone through demos, we have gone through contracting, and we are in basically implementation right now of that audit software, which is really, really exciting and also kind of sometimes overwhelming, as you know, if you've been through a software upgrade and everything, or actually totally new software. Archiving is an area that we have to work on. There are a lot of permanent records in our office that are in paper files and that need to be basically put into Laserfish. These would be formal audits that were given. They might be in the 1980s. They are in the 1990s. So there is definitely some archiving work that we are doing. We have been working with Assessment and Taxation, Alana Cowell. She has been a great partner in this to basically get us on track to get those materials into the proper place that they need to be. Our staff also have continuing professional education we have to obtain every single year, and then we are also active members of the profession. Now, looking ahead to 2024, obviously we're going to do some audits, and we're going to have some follow-ups. Communications is an area that we did work on a little bit in the current year. We were able to update our website, put in some forms to ask for feedback, for ideas of audit topics. That was very helpful. But it's an area that I would like to devote some more time to. My goal for this next year is to have a Facebook page, to do a quarterly newsletter, and to basically get more opportunities for input from the public. Software implementation and strategic plan work, those are ongoing. We will also do some more policies and procedures updates because the auditing standards are changing a little bit. When they wrinkle, it means there's a wrinkle in our policies and procedures, so we have to update those. And of course, our continuing education and leadership, and then more archiving. But I do want to put you on kind of a heads up for things going on beyond 2024. So in 2025, we will go through our first peer review. This is essentially an audit of the auditor. These are best practices. They're something that I hold dear as a professional in my area. It's one of those things where having a peer review team come into the office and actually do a deep dive on our office to see where we are doing well at, where we're not doing well at, and giving us recommendations for improvement is an extremely beneficial experience. We are going to be doing that with the Association of Local Government Auditors. I have been peer reviewed many times in my profession, in my years. I've also been on peer review teams where I have gone out and I have audited other organizations. I would say that it's an invaluable experience, and I will tell you, it is also a good reminder for myself and my staff on what it's like to be on the other side of that table when people are asking me questions. I also have some chartered language that I would like to pursue or would be engaging with you, the County Council, and the CAO's office on potential changes to the auditor provisions of the charter. The charter for the auditor provisions is out of date, and it doesn't align with best practices, so there are some things I would like to pursue. Some of those might be more housekeeping in nature, and some of those might be more substantial. I would really like to thank my staff, Senior Auditors Fiona Howell-Earl and Sherry Kirk, for all their hard work and dedication this year, for their long hours and their good sense of humor. I really have appreciated it very much. I am very pleased with the progress we've made, and I know we have a great path ahead of us. So with that, I would like to thank you for your time. This concludes my presentation, and I'm very happy to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioners, do you have any questions?
And I think the reason I don't have any questions is because you've done a good job communicating with us as we go through the year, so I appreciate the one-on-ones with you as well, so thank you.
Great, I'm glad that they're useful. Thank you.
Commissioner Rogers?
Two things, and maybe you can just send me a memo. You don't need to bore everybody here, but I'd be curious about your peer review program. I'm obviously quite familiar with the AICPA one, but I don't know what you're doing internally. And I'd be curious about what your program is that you're using that you just switched to.
Oh, I'd be happy to send you that information. The peer review program through the Association of Local Government Auditors has been recognized by the Government Accountability Association as being one of the best out there, actually. So I am totally happy to send you information on that. So, yeah.
And then on your program, I'm wondering what you're using. I've seen many iterations over the years here for...
for the software?
Yeah.
Audit Board.
Which one?
Audit Board?
Oh, yes. Okay.
Yeah, I am really excited about our software. I think it's going to allow us to take some processes that are a lot more manual right now and really automate them. So I'm really excited about it. It's definitely an experience of trying to change your mindset on how to configure things, for sure. But I think it's going to be a great addition to our office, and I think it's going to help us immensely.
One request, and I did this of every predecessor you had, and I couldn't get them to do it, but I hope that maybe you'll consider it. And that would be to, as you make recommendations, which you will do in your reports, can you tell us what benefit, other than just general administrative benefit, it has to the county? Is there some financial benefit? Is there some operational benefit to your recommendation?
Are you asking specifically in the recommendation itself, or are you just asking for that in the audit report?
In your recommendations that you make. All your predecessors, they'd make certain recommendations, and I'd say, well, is that increasing efficiency? Is that cutting costs? What's that doing?
Okay, so essentially, Commissioner, what you're trying to get to is cause.
ROI.
I'll consider it.
Yeah, thank you.
And if I might follow up on one of the questions, you say in your letter that the peer review not only is a best practice in the auditing field and is a requirement for audit shops that follow government auditing standards.
Yes, Commissioner.
So just to point out that it's been communicated that it's a requirement as well. So, okay. Great.
We do love our requirements as auditors, so.
Are there any other questions from commissioners? Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate your time, and I hope you have a great holiday season.
All righty. Next, we'll move on to public hearings. We have just one public hearing today, and it's with regard to a bee engrossed ordinance. So do we have a motion to read bee engrossed ordinance number 882 by title only?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of reading it by title only, please raise your hand. Thank you. Commissioners, any opposed? The motion carries 6-0. Ms. Duke-Driesing, could you please read this ordinance by title only? 5-0.
5-0, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Keep going back to the Washington County Housing Authority Board of Directors.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Be engrossed ordinance number 882, an ordinance amending the transportation system plan element of the comprehensive plan relating to an extension of Tile Flat Road.
Thank you. We will start today with a staff report.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. I'm Stephen Roberts, Land Use and Transportation Director, and I'm going to turn to Erin Wardell, our Planning and Development Services Manager. Erin's going to run us through the staff report, and then she and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have on the staff report. Thank you.
Thank you. So our first slide reviews the history of Ordinance 882, and you've seen this slide before because we have had a number of different hearings on this particular item. So this item goes back to our first Planning Commission hearing on December 15th of 2021. We then held a board hearing on January 18th, and on March 1st. At the March 1st hearing in 22, the board directed engrossment of the ordinance to address specific case law that became known to staff in that time period. The first engrossment hearing was on July 26th. The second engrossment hearing was on August 2nd, again of 22. The hearing was continued to January 24th and then March 21st. At the October 24th hearing, the board directed a second engrossment, a B engrossment of this ordinance. We are here today for the first hearing on B engrossed ordinance 882. The second hearing will be next week on Tuesday. The background of this ordinance is on this slide. The Tile Flat Road extension was initially identified during the South Cooper Mountain planning process. The county further evaluated this potential extension in two different studies, the Cooper Mountain Transportation Study and the Urban Reserves Transportation Study. Both of these studies recommended inclusion in the county's transportation system plan. Specific reference to the need for the Tile Flat Road extension was included in the Urban Planning Area Agreement with the City of Tigard, which the board adopted in 2021 as a part of Ordinance number 879. The City of Tigard is currently planning for between 3,000 and 4,500 homes plus commercial uses within the River Terrace 2.0 area. This is a 500-acre urban growth boundary expansion area. The city is currently embarking upon their comprehensive planning effort for this area, and that will include detailed implementation and funding plans for the area with community input. Again, the planning is expected to be consistent with the adopted Urban Planning Area Agreement. The River Terrace 2.0 area is two different areas that are not contiguous to each other. They're displayed on the graphic on the slide. For the purposes of this staff report and discussion, we're primarily talking about the area that's the River Terrace 2.0 West area. The City of Tigard initially proposed this urban growth boundary expansion at the end of 2021. Metro is the decision maker in Metro urban growth boundary expansions. Metro considered the expansion request. This would have been a part of a mid-cycle urban growth boundary expansion. Metro decided not to do a straight urban growth boundary expansion as they had done in the past. They instead decided to do a land swap where they identified land within Clackamas County to remove from the urban growth boundary and add this land instead. So it took Metro about 2 years to get through the technical analysis process and adoption of that land swap. And so that was finally accomplished on February 2nd of this year. The 2-year process for that decision is part of the reason why this ordinance was continued so many times. We were waiting to see what Metro was going to do with it because it changed a lot of our planning and our thinking about this particular area. The Metro land swap was acknowledged by the State Department of Land Conservation and Development in May of this year. So at our recent work session on this item, Commissioner Rogers specifically asked for this information. This shows all of the urban growth boundary expansion areas that are kind of around that Cooper Mountain urban edge. County staff sometimes call this the crescent area. Many of our urban growth boundary expansions in the last 10-15 years have been clustered around this area. So added together, the expansions planned for South Hillsborough, North Cooper Mountain, South Cooper Mountain, River Terrace 2.0, Kingston Terrace, and Sherwood West will add approximately 33 to 34,000 housing units with a population estimate of about 75,000. What this slide does not take into account of how many of those areas are already built, because some of them have been under construction. And so we know that we've seen extensive development already occurring in some of those growth areas, but there's still quite a bit more capacity, and we expect there to be more growth coming. The Sherwood West area is a potential 2024 urban growth boundary expansion request from the city of Sherwood. Oh, I want to note also there is potential for a considerable amount of infill development as well in the existing urban area directly adjacent to these growth areas. So we do have an estimate of 3,600 infill units. Because of middle housing, we think some of these estimates could be on the low side, although with our new planning areas, we expect that they'll be built up to expected density. It's the older areas that we have a little bit more uncertainty about. So Washington County's Transportation System Plan has a Goal 7, connectivity. And Goal 7 deals with providing improved and new transportation connections within and between developed and developing areas. So you can see the two objectives within that goal displayed on this slide. Objective 7.2 states that we should identify as refinement areas where new arterial or collector connections or other improvements are necessary. But the specific location, mode, and or function has not yet been determined. So it is with this objective and this goal in mind that county staff proposed the engrossment to refinement areas, in that we have an identified need, but we know that things are changing in this area and we want to be able to continue to study and evaluate them. Within our transportation system plan today, we have 11 road refinement areas and 8 regional trail refinement areas. So the prior studies we referenced identified the need for multimodal connectivity in this area. Refinement areas will allow us to continue this study and to evaluate options for specific alignment and function of the needed multimodal street connections. So a summary of the B engrossment of this ordinance is on this slide. The B engrossment removes the proposed goal exception analysis and strategy text. There are no longer goal exceptions required as a part of this ordinance. Those are completely removed. We replaced the functional classification map amendment, which would have designated a collector level facility through this area, and we removed the exception corridors for within the refinement areas. We also renamed the various refinement areas to more accurately reflect the nomenclature for these areas that is used by City of Tigard staff, and actually the language that we used within our urban planning area agreement as well. So we are trying to be more clear in the refinement. The 3 proposed refinement areas are then displayed on this slide. We have 3 different refinement areas because these are 3 very different types of areas, and we think that the timeline and when they will develop may be different, and the specific planning activities that will need to occur may be different. So we thought that the cleanest approach was to treat them as 3 separate refinement areas. So there is a refinement area for the rural undesignated piece of land that is between the Tile Flat Road and Schultz Ferry Road intersection and Vandermost Road. There is a refinement area within the River Terrace 2.0 urban growth boundary expansion area. And then there is a refinement area that covers the very southern part of the UGB expansion area and the undesignated parcel south of there to the intersection of Roy Rogers Road and Beef Bend Road. So there's a big question with this ordinance, which is why now? Why is it important to have refinement areas now when we know that there are other planning efforts and some of these things may take 20 to 40 to 50 years to develop? The reason to have these identified in our transportation system plan is to give us the opportunity to do that forward-looking planning and to consider the future internal and broader regional connectivity needs in this area. This gives us the ability to consistently evaluate and confirm our preferred alignments as we work with the City of Tigard in their planning efforts. We will ensure consistency with the Urban Planning Area Agreement, which was again adopted by ordinance by this board in 2021. The graphic shows the proposed refinement areas overlaid on top of the River Terrace 2.0 concept plan. And we can see in that concept plan, Tigard is contemplating their internal connectivity needs for this area. And so we think that the refinement area is supportive of that work. We have heard a number of community comments and concerns throughout this process. We've had a number of meetings, a number of conversations with the community, and your board has heard directly from them as well. So this slide summarizes the concerns that we've heard to this date. We heard a lot of concerns about bringing urban reserve lands into the urban growth boundary and urban growth boundary expansions in general. As your board is aware, the board does not make the decision on metro urban growth boundary expansions, and so that's not something that we can really weigh in on or have any impact on, but it certainly was number one in a lot of the concerns that we heard from people. There were a lot of concerns about the proposed width of a new street. There was a lot of confusion between an exception analysis area and an actual roadway. Again, because we are now proposing refinement area, not a specific roadway, the width of the road will be considered in the future. There were a lot of concerns about environmental impacts of a new street and, in fact, of infrastructure and development in general in the area. A lot of concern about growth occurring in the area. Again, it's primarily now an urban growth boundary expansion area, and so that growth will be planned for by the City of Tigard. The community echoed concerns raised by the City of Tigard as well about the need for this. A lot of concerns about timing and funding, building a new street, and the impacts on housing affordability. And then there were a lot of concerns about the need for exceptions to statewide planning goals. Again, because the refinement area does not require exceptions, that is no longer a part of the ordinance. This slide contains a summary of the specific concerns raised by the City of Tigard and City of Tigard staff and electeds throughout this process. The following concerns were the concerns that the street connection is not needed or justified. Again, throughout the entire area, City of Tigard has a number of connections, multimodal connections shown in their concept plan, and so those are essentially what we're talking about with these refinement areas. We think we have quite a bit of alignment on that. The specific connection that Tigard staff have raised the most concern with is the extension of Tile Flat Road from the intersection of Shoals Ferry Road and Tile Flat Road to Vandermost, and then across to the future extension of Mountainside Way. Tigard staff have raised concerns about the environmental impact of new infrastructure, the housing affordability impacts of infrastructure because it adds on to the system development charges for new homes to build the required infrastructure, concern about potential cut-through traffic, concern about induced travel demand when you build a new roadway, and then concerns about the opportunity cost of funding this particular type of infrastructure over possibly other required infrastructure. So county staff share many of these concerns and are willing to consider working with Tigard staff to overcome these challenges. It's really challenging to bring a new area into the urban growth boundary and provide all of the necessary infrastructure. It's very expensive to do so, but we're here to work through those challenges together. And finally, our staff recommendation for today is for the board to conduct the public hearing and then continue the public hearing to next week, December 12th, for adoption. Thank you.
Commissioners, before we start the public hearing, do you have any questions of staff?
Chair Harrington, I do have a couple questions for the staff.
Yeah.
I was hoping I could have asked this question to you, Aaron and Stephen, at the during our work session, but I thought I would wait because I thought you might address it in the presentation. And this is going to the environmental concerns that many people have raised, including the cities and the constituents. More specifically, I've read a constituent letter that really called out some specific concerns around this issue, and I'm wondering if you could talk us through when those concerns will be addressed. I imagine, this is just me making an assumption, it will be down the road, but more specifically, the roadway would cause changing water chemistry, shade, water frequency, duration, and soil saturations, water depth, biological invasions. When do you think that will be addressed through this potential ordinance?
So all of those impacts would be addressed further down the line in comprehensive planning and in identifying the need for a specific roadway facility and then moving into the design and alternatives analysis portion of that. So this specific ordinance simply designates refinement areas for further study.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. And then two more other small questions. Could you talk us through the potential connection to the West Side bypass to this ordinance?
Well, that's a really big question, not a small question. So the West Side Bypass was envisioned as a limited access freeway that would make the connection essentially from the southern Washington County cities all the way up through what at that time was the western edge of the urban area. And that was a long time ago. So the western edge of the urban area has moved further west since that was contemplated. We are not talking about a limited access freeway. This is completely different from that proposal. When the West Side Bypass project was ended, it became, there was a separate study known as LUTRAC, which was evaluating the connection between air quality and land uses, which was really innovative work at the time. It's something we talk about a lot today, but wasn't talked about as much back then. The outcomes of the LUTRAC study were that instead of building a limited access freeway, Washington County would instead focus on arterial and collector connections within our urban area. So I believe that this ordinance and the work that we're doing with the city of Tigard actually implements LUTRAC in looking at those smaller local scale facilities to provide the necessary connectivity that we need. Again, this is not a limited access freeway.
Thank you, Chair. Another small question for you, Aaron, and perhaps this probably it's something that could be punned to the county council, but I'll ask to you anyway, and then you can toss it. Do we know the 3 refinement areas? Do we know the number of people that are going to be impacted?
So I don't know off the top of my head the number of people impacted by that. I think that's a really difficult question to answer because I don't know exactly what impact would be. Is it on specific property owners whose properties it crosses? Is it the people who will live there in the future as the area is developed? Is it people who are adjacent to those areas because it may have some kind of an impact on them as well? I will say, though, that, again, most of this area that we're talking about is within the urban growth boundary and will be considered as a part of comprehensive planning conducted by the city of Tigard, and so they will have a number of contacts with the city as they move through the public process for their comprehensive planning.
Thank you very much for your answers. Chair Harrington, I don't have any other questions.
Commissioners, any other questions this juncture? Yeah. Great. So thank you very much, staff. At this juncture, we will move on to conducting the public hearing, and commissioners reserve the right to ask questions subsequent to the public hearing as well. So with that, I'd like to open the public hearing. Clerk Moss, who do we have?
So, Madam Chair, I'm going to start with elected official first. So the Mayor of Tigard, Heidi Lube, and then followed by Cherry Taylor.
Welcome.
Hello, thank you so much. I appreciate being here today. Hello, Chair Harrington, Vice Chair Rogers, and Washington County Commissioners. It's nice to see you. I'm Heidi Lube, the Mayor of Tigard, and with me today I have one of our counselors, Maureen Wolf. So I live in River Terrace 1.0. I deeply understand this area we're talking about. It's truly my neighborhood, and in fact, I took tiled flat road to get here today. I'm here to share that Tigard cannot support Ordinance 882 in any form. Since 2020, we have expressed concerns regarding the expansion of Tile Flat Road the way that it's been planned. We've recommended alternative designs and requested a study which would consider more than just the funding. At each turn, our concerns and objectives have been rebuffed and ignored. Yes, the Tile Flat Road is included in River Terrace 2.0 plan, and I understand that's really confusing. I was also confused about it. And truly that's because Washington County staff said that the county support for River Terrace 2.0 was conditioned on the inclusion of tile flat in the plan. In fact, I would say that county staff went so far as inappropriately directing Tigard staff on exactly what color the line of the road should be in the plan. River Terrace 2.0 has the ability to be a new kind of neighborhood that leads with equity first and to make it accessible to everyone. We want to build a community that's livable, walkable, and equitable. Our goal is truly to make it connected to the region and around it. The way Tile Flat Road is being planned to expand is reminiscent of old policies focused solely on cars. We are planning for communities and infrastructure that will live and serve our communities long after all of us are at these tables. To do that, we need to think differently about it. Tigard believes in connectivity through smart transportation policy. And that means that we lead with all road user types rather than focusing solely on traffic congestion and automobiles. We object to this facility not only due to the lack of demonstrated need, but the way a high-volume traffic facility and impact will cut apart a planned city neighborhood. We want to deliver on equitable housing opportunities and carbon-responsible development. The cost alone of this facility will increase the per-door cost of the neighborhood and continue to make it harder for our community members trying to become homeowners. I'm asking you to vote no on 882 and direct staff to work with the City of Tigard as we continue to plan River Terrace 2.0 so we can ensure the connectivity that both agencies desire is addressed. This infrastructure is too important not to take the time to get it done right. I'm asking you to trust and confirm that you also believe our region and community is better when our two agencies work together. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mayor Lube, and thank you for joining us today in person.
All right, next we have Cheryl Taylor and Andrea D'Amico.
Would you like to ask questions of the mayor? Is that your point? Okay, thank you, Mayor Lube.
My name is Cheryl Taylor. Thank you for this opportunity. The last time I was here was to testify against the Western Bypass. And it's nice to see that at least one of you is still here. I live on Shoals Ferry Road. I have a 6-acre piece there. And I also own 10 acres on Vandermost Road. The proposed road will go through both of these properties in full. And the property on Shoals Ferry Road, my backyard, is a significant wetland that has a beaver family as of right now. Also living down there are a little herd of 7 deer. The next door neighbor, Dave Baldino, has seen bobcats. And there's also the usual contingent of coyotes, other common little wild animals that occupy these kind of habitats. This road will completely destroy this wetland, almost completely. A lot of trees will have to come out. A huge bridge will have to be built. The bridge will impact other properties, not just mine. And I would like to come and urge you to please vote no on the ordinance in question. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Ms. D'Amico, the floor is yours.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name is Andrea D'Amico. I live in the Shoals Valley, and as you know, I'm opposed to 882. I sent a functional assessment of the wetlands that would be affected by the proposed area earlier. Kim Cartwright, a wetland ecologist and GIS analyst, summed it up, and I quote, "The wetland was rated as a higher to moderate in both function and values. It features high-quality forested wetland, stream, beaver habitat, and is in a rapid developing area where its values will only likely to increase." Washington County is in the process of updating their significant natural resource inventory maps to be more compliant with Goal 5. And while your stay is only on residential, I honestly cannot see how a refinement area or road in a wetland area can be compliant with Goal 5. It would create a habitat fragmentation, change in water chemistry, shade, water frequency, duration, soil saturation, water depth, biological invasion, and pollution to our groundwater that feeds our well and drinking water. Washington County states in the SNR a focused look at the fish and wildlife habitat, and I quote, "We will then identify different land uses that could conflict with the significant habitat resources and conduct an economic, social, environmentally, energy analysis. This includes of the impacts of the following: limiting or prohibiting conflicting land use when within the significant resource area. Putting a refinement/road in wetland contradicts with the SNR plan." In the B engrossed Ordinance 882 overview is stated under environmental impacts. The ordinance does not identify a specific alignment or function of the future roadway. On the refinement area maps, there is no way to avoid the wetland or the creek. When you weigh out the pros and cons, Tile Flat has environmental, absorbent costs, non-UGB land, and citizens' disapproval. Mountainside Way has none of those. Please don't leave people's lives in uncertainty. Protect our natural resource and our water. Just vote no. Thank you. And sorry if I went over.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Lily Stone and Diane Firmamelli.
Commissioners and Chair, my name is Lily Stone, and I live in the Shoals Valley. I took the day off of work today to come and speak to you all for 2 minutes, so I appreciate you coming and taking the time to listen to what I have to say. Under the description for the Tile Flat Road Extension Refinement Area, you are being asked to establish that there is a need from Tile Flat to Vandermost Road. That establishes that the county will at some point put in a road from Tile Flat to Vandermost Road. The paragraph later contradicts itself by saying that there still needs to be a study for the demonstration of that need. There is not a clear cause for a roadway from Tile Flat to Vandermost Road. There are lower cost alternatives with fewer stream crossings that are less impactful to Goal 5 resources being proposed by the City of Tigard that allows farmland outside of the urban growth boundary to stay intact. I'd also like to remind you of Oregon Administrative Rule 660-1225. The law states that findings of compliance with statewide planning goals shall be developed in conjunction with the adoption of the TSP, or in this instance, an amendment hereto. There continues to be no recognition of statewide planning goals within this proposal, which is a violation. Additionally, a refinement area allows you to amend the transportation plan while deferring decisions on the mode, function, and general location of the roadway. To do that, there legally needs to be specific findings adopted that I mentioned under that same law. Those findings have not been followed. One of those is a transportation need, which still apparently needs to be studied and demonstrated. That is not clear here, especially with the alternatives present and with the shift from this being needed to meet regional traffic to being needed to meet local traffic. Listen to the attorneys, the biologists, the alternate transportation studies that have been done, the City of Tigard, advocacy groups, your constituents here today. They're all concerned with this proposal. The county was given an additional 500 acres to the urban growth boundary this year already. Please use that land to serve your local transportation needs and do not further degrade our Goal 5 resources and set a precedence to degrade our farmland. Please vote no on Ordinance 882. Thank you.
Thank you. Diane, hi. I'm addressing you by Diane simply because I'm not sure I can pronounce your last name correctly.
It's Fameli.
Fameli.
Fameli, yes. Hello, Commissioners. My name is Diane Fameli, and I'm asking that you vote no on Ordinance 882 for the following reasons. My husband and myself purchased a beautiful 11-acre piece of property in 1979, and it will be negatively impacted if the Tile Flat Road extension is passed. But it's not just my property. This 3-lane collector road will cross a creek, ruin some forest land, and most importantly, wetlands on our property. The construction of this road will bring lots of additional traffic, And along with that, air pollution, noise pollution negatively affect the wildlife, but will also pollute the wetlands, which have a valuable importance. It provides habitat for many species of plants and animals and valuable for flood protection, as well as improves water quality. Isn't it our responsibility to be good stewards and protect our wetlands for the community? Also, the cost of building and maintaining this road makes no sense for traveling such a short distance. I believe it's only like 1.25 miles, only just to bottleneck at Roy Rogers Road, especially when there are other solutions that will cost less and have much less impact on these fragile areas. It will also negatively impact, as we've heard, the farmland and the neighborhoods in both River Terrace 1 and River Terrace 2. Who wants another busy collector road polluting, giving more air pollution in their neighborhood? I'm sure if it was going through your neighborhood, you'd feel the same way. These are people that are part of the community, and we need to take them in consideration. So I hope we can do the right thing and the smart thing, and I ask for your vote no on 882. Thank you so much.
Right, next, Chair Harrington, we have Dale Feek and Victoria Frankinney.
No, you can go first. That's fine. All right, Dan, whenever you go first.
I'll go first.
You'll go first, okay.
Madam Chair Harrington and Commissioners, I'm Dale Feek, Chair of the Washington County Citizen Action Network, and our mission statement states this: we're a coalition of grassroots individual. Start over. We're a coalition of grassroots advocates, individual and groups, dedicated to improve the quality of life in Washington County by promoting healthy and sustainable communities, social and economic justice, and open and responsive government. To that end, I'm making public comment as a person, not as the chair of the Washington County Citizen Action Network, however. And before I said we may have our board may have conflicts on this, and that's the reason I say that. It just so happens that Victoria Frenicky is going to be speaking after me, and she sent me her public testimony from Tualatin Riverkeepers, and I looked at it, and they already had made recommendation to oppose this. Tualatin Riverkeepers is a participant group organization listed on WCCAN. And Glenn Fee is a member of the Clean Water Service Advisory Board, too. So, to that effect, and after listening to the staff report, and after listening to previous commentators, I hadn't decided what I was going to say in the way of either support or not support. But I decided to put this on my chest, okay, because I was given this by people that oppose it, and I said, I don't know. I want to listen and learn first. And so from what I've learned so far, from the staff report and the people that have most impacted, and I think some of them have written legal briefs on this, I currently oppose this ordinance. Your turn.
Okay. All right. Good morning, Chair Harrington and County Commissioners. My name is Victoria Frankinney, and I am the Riverkeeper and Staff Attorney for Tualatin Riverkeepers. I am testifying today to state my strong opposition to Ordinance 882 due to its impact it would have on farmland, natural resources, climate goals, and water quality. The adjustment to a refinement area does nothing to mitigate the concerns we've expressed throughout this process. The county fully intends to commit its own funding and that of the City of Tigard to evaluate a need for this road extension that staff have already convinced themselves is there.
However, we disagree. We think there is still a question of need. Connectivity and congestion are objectively weak justifications to create a 3-lane collector through farmland. Additionally, this seems to be counterproductive to some of the other obligations by the county. Climate-friendly and equitable communities rulemaking will require counties to demonstrate vehicle miles traveled is decreasing by 2029. Road creation is explicitly linked to VMT. Furthermore, this area has high-value upland and riparian habitat and has direct connectivity to the main stem of the Tualatin River. Road development will not only have short-term impacts as a result of construction, but the long-term impacts are even more devastating to water quality. The additional impervious surfaces encouraged by the project would increase stormwater output, washing road runoff into a tributary that feeds directly into the Tualatin. There's a toxic chemical in tires, referred to as 6-ppdQAnon, that gets into our waterways via stormwater runoff from roads and is lethal to juvenile salmonids. This unnamed tributary contains federally listed steelhead, meaning that due to the high amount of impact posed by the road, the county will have to comply with Endangered Species Act requirements, in addition to state land use goals, ODFW regulatory requirements, DEQ, and Department of State Land and Army Corps dredge and fill permit requirements. Overall, the county has a lot to consider, and committing funding to a project that poses such a high risk to water quality seems counterintuitive to some of the other work the county is doing to protect and preserve the Tualatin River and its tributaries. The county has not justified the need, and the risk and level of commitment makes this ordinance an unappealing proposal. For those reasons, amongst others, we ask the county commissioners to vote no against Ordinance 882. Thank you for your time.
Next, we have Robert Birchfield and Jenna Beyer.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name is Rob Birchfield. I live at 20050 Southwest Ayton Road. I'm a retired traffic engineer and street designer. I had a career of approximately 40 years, worked for the City of Portland as well as consultants. During that time, I learned that building more big roads doesn't relieve congestion and provide enhanced mobility in the absence of thriving, well-designed neighborhoods. We need walkable neighborhoods with a mix of services that serve residents. What planning professionals sometimes refer to as 20-minute neighborhoods. Residents of our area have watched as numerous street construction projects have progressively widened the intersection of Roy Rogers Road and Shoals Ferry Road. This intersection is really the ground zero for the transportation bottleneck that we're talking about here. They've added more approach lanes and turn lanes and reconstructed the traffic signals. The intersection approaches now are 7 lanes wide, and pedestrian crossing distances exceed 100 feet. It's a hostile environment for the youth of the nearby high school. While the asphalt has barely cooled from these construction projects, the county's transportation analysis for the projects that have led up to this ordinance reveal that this intersection will soon be over capacity. Continuing to apply the logic that created this problem will not solve it. We know that induced travel demand quickly swallows up the capacity added by new roadway construction. That's a common knowledge in our profession. Let the City of Tigard design and develop River Terrace 2.0 without the interjurisdictional arm twisting dictated by the refinement area designation. The refinement designation shifts the burden of proof to the City of Tigard to demonstrate solutions to the problem that the county created. I read this as, we will make you jump through many hoops and pressure you to give us what we want before you will be allowed to develop this new neighborhood. Please vote no.
Ms. Beyer, go ahead.
Good morning, nicely timed. Good to see Chair Harrington and the other commissioners that I've known in the past. I would just like to summarize a few things because everybody had my points already. Quickly, I live at 13395 Southwest River Road, the corner where the wonderful roundabout is now, and it's created quite a change, created quite a rustle at the time, but here we are. As a resident of the Shoals community for over the past 32 years, we've experienced joy in coming home, being part of a vibrant community and a steward of our environment, both the natural and the civil, meaning the built part. Professionally working in land use planning and management, along with designing landscapes and other things, I've witnessed the recent building development in the area. This development pushes the need for convenient conveyance corridors. This development is imbalanced, in my opinion, and encroaches unnecessarily on the land. Setbacks, buffer zones, and sustainable design are non-existent, in my opinion. Please recall the conservation corridors that were proposed during the Lolich development and are basically non-existent due to construction methodologies. The extension of Tile Flat Road project has been studied, and the result is no significant improvement or need was found. The route calls for interruption of 2 drainage areas along with wildlife in the area. Additionally, this area is in use as ag land, which is precious to us. Why not leave this land alone? Why not vote no? We can't claw back the damage that will be created with this road project. As stewards of our lands and in service of our community, let us take care of our wonderful world. Please vote no on 882.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Zab Shevrick and Wendy Kellington.
Good morning, Chair Harrington and Commissioners. My name is Zab Shavrick. This past spring, I moved to a home off of Vandermoos Road on Winery Lane, a big change from my previous residence in Brooklyn, New York. Because of the beautiful and rural landscape of my current home, with a 50-year-old vineyard and wetland habitat in my backyard, I crawled into bed each night this spring to the echoing croaks of cheerful frogs. I spent the summer spotting hawks and our Douglas fir trees and listening to the morning calls of the cows grazing my neighbor's land. Fall brought on brisk runs down Vandermoos Road with waves and smiles to friendly neighbors, and as we made our way into winter, just yesterday I picked out a beautiful, towering Christmas tree from a neighbor's farm across the way. With Ordinance 882 in place, the proposed multi-lane road will directly cut through Vandermoos Road, slicing through our quiet, farmland-rich road, and in doing so, violently disrupting the multi-generational community that's been built here and has been so kind and friendly to me as a newcomer. Something that concerns me even more so than the proposed road's damage to my community is the damage that will incur to our ecological landscape, and it will be detrimental. In today's current fragile climate, there is simply no room for action that increases the threat of climate change, especially local threats. Wetlands are essential to our region, acting as a habitat for native species that give back to our ecosystem, as well as act as crucial modes of flood protection and water quality improvement. Without them and our native species, local farmland and neighboring communities will begin to experience unnecessary and negative environmental impacts, including an increase in pests, crop disease, decreased air quality and water sanitation, excess flooding, and so many more impacts that you've heard today. I ask you as a resident of Vandermoos Road to please stop Ordinance 882 and vote no, for if you proceed, what local community and natural habitat will be next? Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Killington.
Thank you, Chair Harrington, members of the County Commission. My name is Wendy Killington. I represent Andrea D'Amico. She strongly opposes Ordinance 882. There are plenty of reasons why the county should not adopt it. The chief for that, it does not comply with the law. This is an amendment to your TSP. That means it must be demonstrated to comply with the statewide planning goals as well as the TPR. It does neither. It requires exception to Goal 3 because it literally paves the way to destroy some of Oregon's best and most productive farmland without taking any required exception to Goal 3. It could not, in fact, meet exception standards because the county has made zero effort to evaluate alternatives that are not on land zoned for exclusive farm use. It proposes to plan a road outside of the UGB without taking the required Goal 14 exception. And understand this, the semantic change from a transportation corridor to a refinement area is a distinction without any legal difference. What a refinement area does is it says, this is the area where we are going to put a transportation facility. This is the only area we're going to study, to the exclusion of other areas that do not destroy precious environmental resources, that's not on exclusive farm use land, and that's not outside of urban growth boundaries. The proposal is contrary to the TPR and contrary to Goal 2, which requires the county to accommodate the needs of the city of Tigard as much as possible. And this county has made no effort to meet that. So what are the reasons that we've heard to adopt it? Well, we need it to plan. That is absolutely false. You don't need a transportation planning rule amendment or a plan amendment in order to plan. You plan. You work with your partners. You don't plan over the top of them. There's a statement about there's some need. Well, there isn't a need. You've heard from competent people in the city of Tigard who have told you that there hasn't been a demonstrated need. In all, you have nobody who supports it. You have significant groups who oppose it, including competent actors, and it is the only responsible thing that the county can do to deny it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Was there anyone else in the auditorium that wishes to provide testimony on this public hearing as you've heard? Ma'am, please come forward.
Good morning, Chair Harrington, Commissioners. I appreciate this opportunity to testify on Ordinance 882, even as engrossed, or especially as engrossed. First of all, I would like to object to staff's description of the extension of the Southwest Tile Flat Road as being part of the LUTRAC solution. LUTRAC was focused on communities that are designed and land uses that are designed to eliminate the need for vehicle travel. As we know, the extension of Southwest Tile Flat Road would not do that. We have decades of experience showing us that when you build more roads, you do have induced traffic, not potential induced traffic, as staff would have you recognize, but actual induced traffic. The intersection of Southwest Roy Rogers Road and Southwest Shoals Ferry Road is a case in point. We can never make that intersection or any intersection large enough to accommodate all the traffic if we continue to build more roads to increase mobility. What we need to do is use this opportunity. If we're going to study this area, we need to use this opportunity to come up with a better alternative. As you've heard, there are numerous concerns about this, including legal concerns about the process used. Last March, I testified that the county should work on climate change and the impacts of VMT on climate change. Commissioner Willie said, I agree with you, Miki, but you know that will take years. I agree with you, and I'm willing to have any kind of discussion about that with you, Commissioner, or any of the other commissioners. But we need to start now. This is the perfect opportunity. The road has not been built. The road has been planned for. Let's take a look at how we can support better designed communities such as River Terrace 2.0, which the city has gone through great lengths to design. Let's take a look at how we can reduce the traffic rather than increase the traffic by building more roads, increasing VMT, increasing the damage of climate change, and instead of gobbling up more farmland and building more roads, which never seems to end. Let's take another look at that, use that opportunity. Individuals are making great sacrifices in some case to combat climate change. We have the technology, we have the creativity. All we need is the political will, and this is what we expect from you. Thank you.
And one last request. We need you to identify yourself and your voice.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Miki Blizzard. I live in the Kenton area of unincorporated Washington County.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So that concludes the in-room, so we will go to online now. Would any members wish to provide comment online via Zoom on this public hearing as you've heard today? We have One hand so far. Mr. Jim Long. Mr. Long, can you hear us? Can you unmute, Mr. Long? There you go.
Working on it.
Please go ahead.
Okay, I've been listening this morning, and my name is Jim Long. I live in the Metzger-Tigard area. I agree with all the good reasons you've heard and read to oppose this ordinance 882. I have a question or two. Does Washington County have clear and objective codes yet? It's a very important question at this point. There's an opportunity for some precedent-setting judgment on this, and I'm very concerned on maintaining the balance of nature. As I said, I agree with many of the comments done earlier. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Long.
All right, next we have Joe Peter. Joe, can you hear us?
Hello, yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Joe Peter. I live on Farmington Road, fairly close to where Tile Flat intersects. And I'm also president of the Kenton Grange, number 562, that I suspect most of you know is very close to the intersection of Shoals Ferry Road and Tile Flat Road. Our Grange currently has 25 members. Most of them reside in Washington County, and we're pretty evenly split between rural and urban residents. I want to say I am speaking for myself. I'm also speaking for the membership, though somewhat informally. After learning about this ordinance, I surveyed the Grange members, all of the Grange members, to assess a sense of the membership on this issue. There were about 30% of the members responded, and all of the respondents were unanimously in opposition to this plan. That's, I think, the most important thing I can tell you today. I sit here in awe of the testimony I've been listening to, starting with Mayor Lube of Tigard and continuing through everyone else. I am not qualified to add to the technical aspects. I want to let you know that our members seem to be nearly unanimously opposed to this. I also wanted to point out that while the Grange and our membership has been impacted by all of the development in the area, we have not opposed the things like South Cooper Mountain in an open way, in a public way, recognizing that at least to some extent the process seemed to be what we might call normal, even though we might not like it. But punching Tile Flat Road through the wonderful lands that you've been hearing about is just, we can't stand by without voicing our opposition. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Peter.
And Madam Chair, the last hand we have is someone identified as TKWC. Can you please identify yourself for the record for us?
My name is Fran Warren.
Thank you, Fran. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry that I can't change my thing. I'm on so many different committees across the county, all in favor of protecting our significant natural resources. So my name is Fran Warren, and I am requesting that the commissioners vote to continue this work to find a reasonable solution to our serious north-south transportation dilemma, and probably shocking a lot of people out there. I do my best to be a pragmatic environmentalist. I am publicly requesting that my environmental protection colleagues reconsider their opposition to this work and direct their efforts towards finding the most equitable solution for everyone in the recommended refinement areas. Metro transportation planners and environmental scientists are soon to publish their habitat connectivity opportunity areas for transportation mappings to identify opportunities for coexistence. I have no doubt that agencies and the public working together collectively innovatively can solve the problem for the existing residents, wildlife, and farming community. In my written testimonies, I have related this problem has been decided and studied and restudied for over 35 years. Our county and our state have already spent millions of dollars on these studies, only to abandon them due to the opposition. We are still at an impasse while the county population has more than doubled in that time, with a large percentage of that population increase taking up residency already in the subject vicinity area. Those people are here, and we did not design the walkable communities in the past. Whether we put in public transit or whether we extend these existing roads, there will definitely be impact to the environment. What we need to do is to identify the least impact with innovative solutions to do the least harm. We could build an incredible farm extension overpass with the monies saved from litigation and extended studies. And we could also do the same for rivers and sensitive wildlife corridors to ensure connectivity. Even while the commissioners and LUT are deliberating this issue again, we could still all be working together on solving the issues in these three refinement areas. So my message is, let's pool our collective knowledge and expertise. Collaboration is key to achieving our shared goals.
Thank you, Ms. Warren.
Madam Chair, that concludes the public testimony on this public hearing.
Thank you. And with that, we will close today's public hearing. I will, before I ask for this matter to continue to public hearing on December 12th, I want to see if my colleagues have any questions of staff or any comments you wish to share today. Go ahead, Commissioner Rogers.
Sure. I don't know why everybody was looking this way. I think you probably all have
Well,
things as
I
well.
have to turn in order to see all of you, so.
Yeah, our comment. For me, a lot of random thoughts that I'll try to put them into some semblance of order. One, Mickey, nice to see you. I can remember you and I working on Lutrac a long, long time ago. And a little bit of history for those of you who don't know. The bypass was a term we coined in Tualatin a long, long time ago, and it was to do this startling thing of getting from one end of Tualatin to the other, down to 99W. That's all we wanted to do. We knew we were growing. We knew we needed to get around the city. That's where the bypass term came. We weren't big enough to entice the entire region to support it, so we pitched the idea. Unfortunately, it got hijacked and all of a sudden became bigger than life, going to the Columbia River and then across the Columbia River. So I, in some forums, opposed that part of it. It was too expensive. It's not certainly anything we needed at the time, but this is in no way intention to be a Western bypass. I mean, that's old terminology. Secondly, I would say I can empathize with a lot of the comments. I was born and raised right outside Portland and by the Columbia River. We were in structures that you were not middle class. It'd be called working poor class. So they don't exist today. But we also had, cottonwood trees. We had all kinds of riparian ways. We had a lot of things. They're all gone today, all of it. And I know the pain of that. But I also understand that the population continues to grow because people continue to come here. We were unable to say, okay, as Tom McCall said, come and visit, but go away. It didn't work, and that's because we're the United States of America. And so we continue to have folks coming to our region every day, and so we're dealing with it. And I also happen to represent areas like Wilsonville, Sherwood, Tualatin, who either have as many residents leaving every day to go to jobs as people who live there. And so we're not in moats where we do go elsewhere. I listened to a presentation at WA yesterday about Rondler Acres out here in Hillsborough and continued plans to grow Intel. And I know in Tigard, where I happen to live, many neighbors and many people who go to the north all the time to work at Intel and the plants in Hillsborough. So we got a lot of challenges. To the good mayor of Tigard, I'll call you Heidi because you and I know each other so well. I'm disappointed to hear that there's been some angst between the staff. That's not what we want to hear. We've always been partners. For as many years as I've served here with our partnerships, it's important. But frankly, I don't know the answer, and I happen to concur with what Fran was saying. We need to keep looking. I mean, I don't care about going down a road that is obviously in a rural area. It doesn't make sense economically to build in it. It doesn't make sense to go across wetland. None of it makes any sense. I agree. I mean, that's not really the issue. But what do we do when we're going to have 75,000 potential residents all along there wanting to go to the north and to the south? Because your city of Tigard, the cities of Sherwood, the cities of Wilsonville, cities of Tualatin have a lot of migration going back and forth. We're not confined. And as much as we might all want to say we're going to walk 5 minutes to get to our jobs, it's not happening. Tigard, which I'm most familiar with, has limited industrial land and in growth areas. You can go up, but you can't go out with lots of new plants. So we need to figure out how we're going to fix this. I think Fran is right. I remember speaking about around the mountain and a number of other alternatives. But I, for one, just to tip my hand, I'm not for throwing out 882. I don't think Vandermost is the smartest option in the world. It's not a good option at all. But we've got to figure out what to do. And we have to have our friends in Tigard be part of the solution. I mean, you're part of the problem. If you didn't put in, all of that development, if we didn't have King City going all the way from its present design to Roy Rogers Road, if we didn't have Sherwood doing what they're doing, if we didn't have Tualatin growing like they're growing in Wilsonville, we wouldn't be talking about this. I mean, if there was somehow a sudden stop in growth. So I know we're going to have another hearing. I understand we're going to listen to some more, but I have always said, and I'll leave you with this, that though I represent many of the people that are sitting here today, I also represent the unborn and those who are yet to come. And what are we going to do to make it better for them? I mean, we some of us are pretty white-haired. We're not going to be around for that. But we need to have a better world when they come up, and we've got to look at what those options are. And so I would encourage us at our next meeting to see if we can't defer further action, which sounds like we're kicking the can down the road. I get it, but I want to really make certain we talk with our partners in Tigard and come up with some solutions, and as well as King City, Sherwood, and Tualatin, and see what we can do, as well as our friends in Hillsborough, and see if there isn't something we can do plan-wise that makes some sense to move people around the county. So that's my comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Rogers. Anyone else? No requirement. Go ahead, Commissioner Willie.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Aaron, could you come back to the mic, please? So we've heard a lot of concerns about this, what this ordinance will do or may do, okay? My focus has been that this is strictly an opportunity for us to provide more study to options of a fairly large area. Am I correct in that?
Correct.
So we're not building any roads, not designing any roads. We're not building any bridges over environmentally sensitive areas. We're strictly providing an opportunity in the presentation that you've made to study this area. My concerns are, I hear the environmental issues, and I want to make sure that we have opportunity to evaluate that as well, and where possible, minimize any environmental impact on that. But my concern is, because I do travel down Shoals Ferry Road, I quite frankly avoid that intersection of Roy Rogers and Shoals Ferry, and I take back roads to get to Sherwood. That's not a very good option if that's our only option. I also look at this neighborhood as significantly increasing in density, and we have to have access in and out. Now, it's been suggested that we extend to the mountain, what is that?
Mountainside Way.
Yeah. And so we connect that going north out of the neighborhood there. I don't know if that's an option. I don't know if that intersection is too close to the Roy Rogers intersection, if that would require another light. I know there's a light going into the high school there, off of there. So all of a sudden we start, and there's a light at Tile Flat. So all of a sudden we start stacking up traffic lights, which actually increase environmental impact with, carbon dioxide, and it also increases the traffic issues of congestion. So, but we've got a lot. All we're doing right now is providing opportunity for further study, and that's why I'm willing to go ahead and say we're not putting anything in concrete. We're just saying we're looking at the options. And that's why I'm going to go ahead and approve 882. So I don't know, I said a lot there. I ask you to come forward. Do you have any comments to my comments?
I think that's a correct characterization. The refinement area I like to describe as being a flag in our plan that we expect something to change in this area, and we are going to continue to study solutions to that change as it happens.
Thank you, Commissioner Willie. Anyone else? Any questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, I will add my own. So at this juncture, I believe we've heard a lot of comments over the course of time. The way that Tile Flat is indicated through even Be Engrossed Ordinance 882 has a lot of folks concerned that Tile Flat Road is being imposed as an arterial into the River Terrace 2.0 community. Folks have a lot of concern about past practice as well. I'm not going to comment about that. But rather, I do recognize the top-down imposition of an arterial versus approaching what is needed through connecting with a comprehensive community plan. So from my standpoint, I think we just need to wait until after the city has gone through its comprehensive community plan work. We'll see where the streets are, we'll see where collectors are, and approach it then. I think based upon the letters that have been written to us from the city, we also have a need to work on our relationship. There is a lot of concern about how this is proceeding and what it will, even the study will impose on the comprehensive community plan. So let's just take a pause and work with the city, go through the comprehensive planning. I mean, we have River Terrace 1.0 in place now. We know how people are traveling through their own community and neighborhood and how they are connecting up to get to other places. I don't think we need to make assumptions about imposing an arterial through River Terrace 2.0 before the comprehensive community planning work is done. Let's go through that work in partnership with the city and then make changes to the county TSP as appropriate from there. It isn't often that I find myself as an elected official agreeing or taking note of comments from the land use lawyer, Wendy Kellington. but I think she raised some points that really cause us to think about things and how changing language to a refinement study may be a distinction without a difference, and don't plan on top of your partners. So my compliments to you, Ms. Killington. I don't know if in my 17 years of service thus far I've ever made such a compliment to you in land use matters. So at this juncture, I will be voting no to continue. I know that's perfunctory, but when it comes to a final vote as well, I will be voting against be engrossed ordinance 882. So with that, I'm asking for a motion from the board to continue the public hearing to next Tuesday, December 12th, 2023, which I will note is an evening meeting for continuing the public hearing and moving to adoption. Do we have such a motion?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote by saying aye or raising your hand. Thank you, commissioners. Any opposed? The motion passes by a vote of 4-1. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the second public comment period of today's meeting. This is an opportunity for members of our community to address the board for up to 5 minutes. Clerk Moss, do we have anyone who wishes to speak with us?
I did not see anyone sign up in the room. Would any member in the auditorium that is still in attendance wish to provide public comment on any county-related topic for up to 5 minutes? Give you just a moment to stand up, raise hand, or come forward. Not seeing any in the room. Would any member online via Zoom wish to provide public comment on any county-related topic for up to 5 minutes? Give you just a moment to utilize the raise hand function. Not seeing any hands, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Clerk Moss. Next, we'll move on to board announcements. As I mentioned earlier, the next business meeting of the Board of Commissioners will be next Tuesday, December 12th. We will start our meeting day as the board with a work session at 2 p.m. that afternoon, board meeting in the evening. I'll also note that this Thursday, December 7th, we have a roundtable meeting at 9 a.m. That'll be it for the remainder of the year, which means on Tuesday, December 19th, Tuesday, December 26th, and Tuesday, January 2nd, please don't come here or tune in because we won't be here. And we wish everyone a wonderful continued holiday season. We will pick back up with our work session on Tuesday, January 9th, starting at 9 a.m., our roundtable on Thursday, January 11th, starting at 9, and a combo of meetings on Tuesday, January 16th, work session at 9 a.m., then pausing, reconvening, generally at 1 o'clock after the lunch break, and a board meeting starting at 10 a.m. Occasionally, we go back to work session earlier. Stay tuned. We'll determine that as we get closer. Are there any other Board of Commissioner announcements for today? Nope, seeing none. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of adjourning today's meeting? Thank you for raising your hand. Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously 5-0. We're hereby adjourned. Thank you.